Hello and welcome to The Story of Us. This video is part of the A Feather in My Wallet project, which has been funded by the Arts Council England and which was set up by the author and storyteller Kat Wetherill. And it also involves the incredible artist Anne Brierley and myself, Catrice Horsley. So let us start. Many of us believe that we have no story, or the story that we have is not worth sharing. It's too boring, it's too ordinary, it's nothing special. And yet all of our lives are completely unique, and so are our stories. How we have lived our lives, what we have learned, how we have worked, or those relatives, those special relatives and family members that we've had, the bonkers auntie and uncle who we adored. All of our lives are patterned in an incredibly unique way. The problem is that because our lives are ordinary, because that's the only thing we've experienced, then we kind of think they're very normal. But they're not. We don't see them as special, I know, but other people do. I remember when I was at school, there was a new girl who started called Camilla, and I think she was Greek or Italian. Anyhow, she would come to school every day. I was probably about 9 years old. She would come to school every day with these incredible sandwiches. They were made from some special bread and they were filled with salamis and onions that had been set in vinegar or oils, and they were utterly delicious. And I would go to school with a sandwich made of processed white bread and perhaps what were they? Dairy cheese triangle. And she would look at my sandwich and go, "Oh my goodness, that looks amazing. Can I have your sandwich?" And I would look at her sandwich and go, "Oh yeah, you can definitely have my sandwich if I can have your sandwich." She thought my sandwich was extraordinary. I thought her sandwich was extraordinary. We both thought our own sandwiches were dead boring because those were the things that we'd grown up with. So, it is often only when we start to share our stories that we realise how incredibly special they are. In fact, this whole project has come about because of a story of a feather in a wallet. There was a man who had served in the military, George was his name, and he had been injured. And because of that, he couldn't serve anymore. And on one day, he was on a tram in Liverpool in his civvies, his civilian clothing. And it was during the wartime. And a woman walked past and dropped a white feather on his lap. And that showed that she felt he was a coward and that he hadn't served and done his duty. Of course, she didn't know that he'd been injured while fighting. She didn't know his story. But after he died, Georgie's wife found that he had kept that feather in his wallet all those years, and he'd never told her. Now, what caused him to do that, we don't know, because he never shared that story. He never told that story. But that feather must have carried a certain weight for him. So if this whole project was brought about by one story, if it connected and impacted on all of you people who are involved, who are sharing your stories, imagine what a difference sharing your story could make. And your stories, you can share your stories that might be funny, that might be sad, that might be disturbing, that might be empowering, that might be about food or family or holidays or work. And often, what makes our story interesting and unique isn't the events that happened, but how we choose to experience them and make sense of them. So you could have gone through the same experience as somebody else, perhaps having a child or perhaps the bereavement of a loving mother, but you could have experienced it in a totally different way to somebody else. But by sharing your story, You can enable other people to see that there are different ways of experiencing life and making sense of it. So, all of you have incredible, unique stories, and one of the best things that you can do is to share them with other people. Because as Maya Angelou says, there is nothing heavier than carrying an untold story. And for me, I think there is nothing more liberating than sharing your story with others. So go ahead, do it now.